I am the Craft Dad.
Alright, Craft Dad is back here with Darth Vader Helmet Part 2. In this part I'll be showing how I use wood glue to prepare the helmet. Okay, so here I am. I'm working on my new project. I'm on the next phase, and that's to try to harden the paper that I created the Darth Vader mask from. Now, I was originally thinking of just taking the worbla, heating it up, kind of covering it over, and trying to work with it then and without crushing the paper. But even using cardstock paper at 120 weight, it still is kind of flimsy and can crack in. Now, as you can see here, the model looks pretty good, but I want to capture a lot of this detail without losing it if I try to cover it in something. I don't want to go through the process of resin and fiberglass and resin and fiberglass and then bondoing and sandpapering and that whole long process that people tend to do with this. I'm going to try a different way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try wood glue. I'm going to try the wood glue. I'm going to put it on there, kind of brush it on. Wood glue dries hard, okay? And I mean like really hard. And so it'll stiffen it up. You can get several coats on there. If you mess up and you got a bump somewhere, you can actually sand it off. Wood glue is sandable. That's why it's wood glue. Okay, so we're gonna give this a try and see how it goes. And that's my dog in the background coming to visit me. So starting off, what I ended up doing is I started off with a foam brush. And as it turns out, the foam brush was not the best kind of brush to use for this type of application because the foam brush primarily soaked up most of the wood glue instead of putting it on the actual surface. The foam brush actually, it was easy to work with and stuff, but there was too much soaked into the foam brush. I later switched on to a synthetic paintbrush, which worked really great. It didn't soak up the paint and it was able to actually paint the wood glue on. And so here you can see I'm just coating the cardstock paper with the wood glue. I'm trying to keep the wood glue from dripping. And so as I paint it on, of course, I've got it watered down so it is in more of a watery, runny state. And so I'm just kind of wiping it, and as I add it to some areas, I go back over other areas and make sure that the runoff isn't as bad. Now, as you can see in this video, I started with the face. Why did I start there? Because I wanted to start there and it's staring me in the face. Now, what I should have done is started with the neck. Now, I was trying to avoid starting with the neck because I didn't know if the neck piece is going to be too big for my son, so I was going to try to save that for last. But as you add on the wood glue and as you add on eventually the worbla, the problem is the weight becomes too much for the cardstock paper neck of the helmet, and so you need something that you needed to have more stability. And so I should have started with the neck, gotten that done, let it harden, and then worked on the rest of the face. That way it doesn't collapse in. So you can see here I kind of did the neck and the front. And the reason I did that is because the helmet was leaning to the right and I wanted to give it more stability. So I did the front part of the neck and I put the glass cleaner can there to kind of hold it up. And when it dried, it actually got rid of the lean in the helmet. So here's a closer up picture of the wood glue that I'm using. I'm using Titebond 2 premium wood glue. There are many different types of wood glue out there. You can experiment with them yourself. It does say it's weatherproof, but I'm watering it down. It does dry and form a bond. So as you see here, the mask is covered, not completely, but the pieces that I did cover, the mask has dried, and it actually added a lot of stability. And so how much water am I adding to the wood glue? As you can see in the video, not very much, just a couple drops. And then I add the wood glue in. It's kind of watery. I want it a little bit watery and not the thickness that it usually is. And it makes it easy to paint on. And so here you can see I'm using the synthetic brush. It worked great, and I started getting the rest of the neck and the side of the face. Now I did one side and then I did the other side, and because I had already done the face and the top of the head, when I set this down to dry, I just let it dry sitting upside down. All in all, it took me 2 days to actually do the first layer of wood glue. And some of it in the face area, I actually only did one application because it wasn't thick enough and it was hard enough that I felt comfortable enough that the worbla wouldn't cave in the paper when I pressed on it and heated it up. And so as you can see here, just again hitting the painting it on and trying to keep the drips of the wood glue from forming, so I don't have to do any sanding if need be. And just paint, paint, paint. Take your time. It's not a race, and it actually it worked out really good in giving it the stability that it needed. Now, if you're not using 120 weight cardstock, what you have to be careful with is as you paint this, it will warp the paper. The paper, when it gets wet, it warps, it loses its strength, it collapses. So you have to be careful. Now, some people say do a hairspray. Someone's idea was they use hairspray to strengthen the paper. So there's other techniques out there to strengthen the paper. It all depends on what you're willing to try or buy or spend money on. Wood glue was only like three bucks for that whole bottle. So I mean, it's relatively cheap, and I can take my time and I can get it where I want it and kind of build it up in some areas where I feel I need it. And so, it's all up to you and what your preferences are. Now, you can sand wood glue, but for me, I'm not planning to sand it because I'm planning to put the worbla on over it. And so if there's going to be any sanding that I do, it's going to be to the worbla, because there's no point unless I have a really, really bad gluing mistake where there's a huge glob somewhere. My plan is to sand the worbla and get the worbla ready to try to give a nice finish to the mask. Now for the future parts, I'm trying to do more video footage so you guys can see me actually doing the work as opposed to still pictures that are kind of like in a slideshow effect. But I mean, I plan to mix it in and do both. It's kind of hard when I'm working by myself. And that is it for part two. Well, to everybody who likes my videos and shares them, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. It keeps me motivated in doing what it is I'm doing. I've now signed up on Instagram so I can do more live videos and post things there that I'm not putting into the videos yet, just because it's time consuming and I need to get these projects done for at least for my son for Halloween. So like, share, and subscribe, and thank you very much.